Welcome to the Daily Loot, your go-to source for all things gaming. Whether you're a casual gamer or a diehard fan, we've got you covered with the latest news, reviews, and analysis from the gaming world. So sit back, grab your controller, and get ready for a daily dose of gaming goodness. This is the Daily Loot, and we are glad you're here.
Hey, and welcome to episode 2 of the Daily Loot. So, I hope you enjoyed episode 1, and here we are for episode 2. I have I wouldn't say a rich program today, but I have something I would like to talk about and maybe inform you, like what is actually going on in the gaming market with, for example, handheld gaming. So, today I wanted to talk about handheld gaming and what kind of impact it can have on the gaming world and what I think the future for this is actually. By the way, you are in the Daily Loot, which is a new gaming podcast, you could say. Yeah, a new gaming podcast where I'm trying to make as many episodes as possible to talk about gaming and inform you about stuff that I think personally is important. And if you're listening on any podcast platform, you will hear my voice. If you're watching on YouTube, you will see me sitting outside and there's a cat behind me. So, basically that's where I am right now. So, let's get to it. By the way, I am your host, Dvalin. I forgot to say that even in episode 1. I'm your host, Dvalin. I'm a content creator, and you can find me on basically YouTube, Facebook, and anywhere. Just search for Dvalin, Dvalin. But let's get to it. And I can already feel now I should have, taken on sunglasses because it's very shiny out here. But I'm going to try to survive this. So, we are going to talk about, as a first thing, about handheld gaming. So what is handheld gaming and what does it mean to you and what could it possibly be in the future? So if we go back like a lot of years back, my very first console I ever had was a Game Boy. It was the Game Boy without color. I think it was just called like the Game Boy Color probably. It basically just had like a gray orange-ish color screen where I could play Zelda and a very old Pokemon game. I think it was, yeah. My next handheld gaming was the Game Boy Advanced, which then had actually like different colors. Yeah, it had like, I'm not sure, like maybe I'm wrong with the names, but it's just like what I have in my heart, what I can remember in my brain. But then I got the Game Boy Advanced, which then I got like Pokemon Gold, I think it was like the Pikachu edition, and I even had like the Pikachu Game Boy. After that, I got another one, which was like, instead of like normal Game Boy size, it was like a long white one. I can't even remember the name of that one. And then I even had the one where you could like flip it. What I'm trying to say here is that this Game Boy generation that basically started the handheld gaming here was interesting because it was small, limited games, pixel art games. You didn't really have like any 3D games on that small particular console. I know later on, then we got like PlayStation would develop the PS Vita, which we can probably discuss if it was a success. I mean, there's probably a reason to why we don't have it today. Let's just say it probably wasn't that successful. And I remember having it myself, and it was like all the games you played. It had a very limited, like how big the world could be. I even had like a shooter game where every time you entered a new room in this house building, it had to load. And when you have like a PC and I don't know, like PlayStation 2, I think was out at the same time, it was kind of like a downgrade, like a big time downgrade. Where today, if you play on your PlayStation 5 and you go to your Nintendo Switch, it doesn't feel like that big downgrade. It's more like, well, on PlayStation 5 you can play like whatever, like 60, 120 frame rate, and on Nintendo Switch you normally play like games in 30 frames, which is like the biggest difference. But what I'm trying to say here is that then we got the PS Vita. After the PS Vita, we had like, Nintendo was like experimenting with Wii U and Wii 3D. And, they had all these handheld console, which never really succeeded in the gaming market. Everyone was just like, what is that? That's a joke. Like, what are you doing? But then something happened. Nintendo actually, they had. I remember the announcement like it was yesterday. I remember the goosebumps and the hype that it just like uh, it changed the world from that day. And basically, what happened was that Nintendo announced the Nintendo Switch. I know there's probably 100 consoles I haven't mentioned which released before the Nintendo Switch, but none of them like got the potential of what the Nintendo Switch had. I know if you go back, probably the Game Boy and the Game Boy Advance and all those very old consoles, they of course sold like butter, and they probably have the highest sales numbers like ever. But now today we're like talking about the real gaming experience, like the real where you actually have an open world game on your handheld device. So I'm sorry to all the nostalgic people who like, oh, my Game Boy Advance had a big Pokemon world. Well, yeah, but now we're talking about real cool 3D gaming, like good looking games. And Nintendo Switch was basically changing the world from that day. And if you haven't seen it, if you go in and look up one of those leaderboards, you can see the Nintendo Switch is actually like the fourth. I can't remember if it was like the third or the fourth most sold console right now. I mean, to be fair, this console had been out for a lot of years, which of course makes sense that it's not has been sold more the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox One S or X because it has been out for a very long time. But basically, Nintendo Switch changed the entire world. Suddenly, people were like, okay, that's a nice machine. It's very nice in your hands. I even have two of them. I have the OLED version and then a Switch Lite. I also had the original one, but I sold it because I wasn't really happy with it. But so I'm saying basically a lot of time. I'm going to start doing that. So Nintendo Switch then announced this console, and the fun part was I remember some interview with Blizzard, Activision Blizzard, whatever, like, and other companies like EA, where they were like, no, we're not gonna make games for this console. Have you seen the specs? No, never. It's not gonna happen. Like, look at that. We're never gonna downgrade to that. No, it's never gonna be a success. And can you look at that today? Like, there is so many games from especially Activision Blizzard, which is on the console today. We have like Overwatch, we have Diablo 2, Diablo 3. I know Diablo 4 it's not coming for Nintendo Switch. Maybe later. I could imagine like a stream version, like the new Resident Evil game. You can actually stream that game on the Nintendo Switch. So you still buy it for full price, but what actually happens is you're basically streaming the game, which is, I guess, cool that the technology is finally like allowing us to do that. But no, so yeah. So going back again to Nintendo Switch, it released. People were shocked. You could definitely like suddenly you could play all these awesome Nintendo games on. And again, most people who probably bought a Nintendo Switch is buying it for like either playing Fortnite or Nintendo games. Because when Fortnite basically got removed from Apple Store, the Google Play Store, the stores on the mobile and iPads, then suddenly people had to find like a new way to play Fortnite, and that like started actually quite a big move for getting consoles. Because suddenly, like, I can't use my iPad anymore because now I don't have Fortnite on it. I know today you can play Fortnite on the iPad through Xbox Game Cloud, I think it is. Actually, even for free. Is it for free? I remember there was some kind of like streaming platform. I think even Nvidia, one of the gaming platforms, is offering Fortnite. I'm pretty sure for free where you can play it on, which is pretty cool. But yeah, so Nintendo Switch started selling like hot bread. People loved it. They could like travel around the world. I started hearing like other gaming podcasts where they just kept talking about the Nintendo Switch all the time. Like every time they travel around the world doing interviews, gaming events, they always had the Nintendo Switch with them because they could basically play some of their favorite games on it, which is nice. Like compared to like in old times, what you had was like if you wanted to play like your big games, your AAA games or small games, indie games, you had to basically like bring your laptop. And to play on a laptop, you even need like a controller you can like connect through Bluetooth or cable or keyboard mouse or just a mouse, because I mean on the laptop of course you have a mouse, a keyboard. So it just like changed the entire world. And suddenly you had your games with you all the time. You could go anywhere. I would I would like to be a child now, like going to school, university, all that, like the traveling I used to do like back in the days. I was like staring on a phone which could like basically do nothing. Like it couldn't do much. And back in the days, like on iPhones, the games they had was crap. So crap. But now, being in an age where if you're transporting yourself from A to B and it's like a journey on an hour, you can bring up your Nintendo Switch, your Steam Deck, like any handheld console, and just like play whatever game you want. It's pretty amazing, and you don't even need internet, or if you need internet, you just share it from your phone, which is really cool. But what I'm trying to say here is that so we had the Nintendo Switch, which basically started like transforming the entire world. People started seeing handheld gaming was actually something worth it. Then Microsoft kind of started with the Game Pass to release that you could play Game Pass on your mobile. And first they started off with like, playing like games on your mobile with a controller. Then Stadia came. If you remember, Stadia was actually like a cloud gaming platform, which worked really well. Like, it's probably the streaming platform I've tried which worked best on my phone, like performance-wise and FPS-wise and latency-wise. They really had the technical, like the tech structure working really good. I remember like I could like play Elder Scrolls Online on my phone anywhere with touch controls. So like big bravura. So like big like thumbs up to Stadia for actually having really good like touch controls and just it just worked really well. But you just then saw this this wave of people starting playing all these cloud games on your phone, on your tablet. Even if you have games on your Steam, like on your PC, you could stream games from Steam to your iPad. And we just saw more and more people starting doing this movement from more handheld gaming. Like people started doing more and more handheld gaming, streaming, not streaming, Nintendo Switch, and again, Nintendo Switch was just like the king in this market. We had like no other kings in here, but it was about to change because we of course we had the streaming parts, but like serious gamers, they don't see like if you are in a place where you have like good internet, money for consoles, or in a place where you are able to buy stuff you want, streaming isn't gonna be like the main thing there. I know that streaming is a good thing for places where the money is not tied so good with the world, where, for example, a console costs like 3 times more at their place because the money wage they get is lower than rest of the world, but the console still costs the same. So it's like it doesn't make sense because that's just how like the world is turned. I'm not gonna sound like I know how the world works, but you know what I mean. So you see a lot of streaming through game streaming is happening in places where they just don't have the money for consoles. But basically, Nintendo Switch is a very cheap console, which helped also because I mean you could get the Nintendo Switch Lite to like no money, like it's so cheap, and you can play so many games on it. And it's just been the king for a very long time. But what I'm trying to say here is that then we had another one coming up as a competitor. Maybe there has been other small consoles that I haven't heard about before, but what really started shaking this entire industry was shocking, the Steam Deck. Suddenly, Valve, they came out with the Steam Deck, which was basically a Linux-based machine, but the architecture inside it was a normal architecture for a PC, so you could, without any problems, also install Windows on it if you wanted. For example, I have a Steam Deck today, and I have Windows 11 on it, and it just works like a charm. I know that when you install Windows, you have to do a few things to actually make it perform better, which I can easily make a guide about. But you need to do a few things before it actually works in the good way for Windows, like drivers, you have to change some settings in Windows, and etc. But then, now my Steam Deck is working like a super Windows PC, and I can play any game on it anywhere, and I don't have to think about any limitations. And I know a lot of people is fine with having the Steam Deck with Steam OS, because you can still pretty much play almost any game on it. The reason for why you can play almost any game on it is because it support there's a thing called Proton on Steam, on Linux, which basically translate the games into, I guess, Linux speech, which makes the games work. So, for example, if you wanted to install Battle.net on Steam OS, you could do that and just run it through Proton on Steam, which is cool. But okay, so I'm going into technical things now. What I'm trying to say is we had the Nintendo Switch, which was like the world-breaking thing. Now you could suddenly have all your console-like experiences anywhere with you in the world. Then Steam Deck shocked the world by suddenly coming out with a handheld PC gaming device, which was stronger than the Nintendo Switch. Because the problem with the Nintendo Switch is that it's a very weak machine. And like if you install Fortnite on it, you can play it in 30 frames. And if you sit with a console which has 30 frames, and then you have next to you a console with 60 frames, it is a big difference, like very big difference. On my Steam Deck, I can play like any games in 60 frames without problems. Just maybe sometimes have to turn down the graphics or, fiddle with some settings, but I can definitely get it up on 60 frames. And it looks good. So smooth and running. Where on Nintendo Switch, you sometimes are like, it's so boring looking at 30 frames. But, so we had the Nintendo Switch. Then the Steam Deck came out. And I think the Steam Deck, it started like, if you imagine like you have a cup of water where a drop goes into the middle, that was the Steam Deck. It suddenly like shocked the entire gaming industry and was like, wait a minute. We can actually do handheld gaming devices running either Linux, like the Steam Deck, or Windows. Wow. And then you have like companies like Ionero, I think it's called, which made some handheld gaming devices which are way stronger than the Steam Deck. But they cost like something like $1,400, $2,000. They are heavy budget gaming machines for handheld. And I totally understand that not everyone is going to be able to afford that. I mean, it's too much for me. Like, no, that's too much. But the Steam Deck had a really nice price. Like, you could get a low version, which like had a slower hard disk and smaller. But then you could just buy like an SD card to make more place on it, more storage. Or you could buy the big one with a fast hard disk. Like, it had all like budgets in mind. And now for a year, the Nintendo Switch and Steam Deck has just kind of like ruled the entire handheld gaming industry. But what happened now is another player has entered the ring, which is very new. It's very new. It's like something that just like recently happened. That on the 1st of April, I know it sounds weird. On the 1st of April, Asus ROG, which is basically I'm not sure how you say it, but Asus, the brand Asus, which makes phones and screens and gaming devices and PCs and stuff like that, screens, they announced on the 1st of April this year that they were coming on with a handheld gaming device called the Ally, Asus ROG Ally. And everyone was like, okay, nice April Fool. Like you really got us there. Nice April Fool. And then suddenly Asus ROG, I think, they couldn't have done it with a mistake. They did it on purpose. They came out like the next day and were like, nope, it's not a joke. It's real. We have a handheld console. And everyone was like, it's probably like, it's very expensive. It's very strong. No one's going to be able to buy that. It's going to be very, oh my God, what is it? And then they also like showed it's going to be a Windows gaming hell. So no Linux like the Steam Deck, but just Windows, which is pretty cool. Like I'm a more Windows guy than Linux, so I definitely enjoy more that. It's also annoying that I just bought my Steam Deck and then Asus ROG is coming out with a stronger device. And I was like, But it's okay because I feel like Steam Deck is a cool machine, which even has like mouse pad tracks on left and right side, which no other competitors have. So that's pretty cool. But on the 11th of May, I'm looking at the Twitter page right now for Asus, or we call Rock Global. They're saying here, we are thrilled to announce that we will be unveiling our the ROG Ally specifications, availability, and pricing on May 11th at 10 a.m. ET. Save the date and tune in to Live Rocks, YouTube, and Twitch. So basically, on May 11th, 10 a.m. ET, they're gonna announce like the pricing, the specs, everything. And something just happened because the price actually got leaked. We don't know. I haven't really checked on who leaked it. I just know that every single website is talking about it. Like everyone is talking about it. But the device is set to cost $700, which I personally feel is a pretty good price. Like it's not that big of a deal because it's like $700. And if you look at the newest, if you look at the strongest Steam Deck, which basically have the same processor and graphic card as the smallest version, it's 679 euro. And if we say 679 euro to dollars, that is 750. So this means you will probably be able to get the ROG Ally for a lower price than the biggest Steam Deck, but potentially it's gonna have double the power. We don't know because on 11 May, May of 11, we're gonna first like get the real specs for the ROG Ally. But as it looks like, I mean, to be honest, like it's gonna release like 1.5 years after the Steam Deck actually was released. Of course, it's gonna be stronger. Tech develops every day. Every day we get new chips, new technology. Of course, it's gonna be stronger. It cannot be not stronger. So it's a new age. It's gonna be stronger. It's gonna be a Windows gaming handheld. I'm gonna soon get the price. But what I'm trying to say with all this is that gaming handheld started with Nintendo having all these small devices. I know you had also other consoles back in the days before I was born, probably. But we all remember the Game Boy we played Pokemon on. We all remember now the Steam Deck, sorry, the Nintendo Switch, with like was what the first like nice handheld gaming device. Then we have the Steam Deck, which basically turned around the world. But now you could play Call of Duty, you could play MMOs like World of Warcraft and Elder Scrolls Online on your handheld. Like you could basically sit in a boss for 1 hour and do a dungeon in Elder Scrolls Online, which is pretty cool. Even when Diablo 4 releases next month, we will in June. I can't say next month, that's only May. But soon, like in 34 days, you will be able to play Diablo 4 on the Steam Deck, which is mind-blowing. That's basically the reason I bought my Steam Deck, just to clarify why I bought the Steam Deck, is because of Diablo 4. And it's just to say, this is only the beginning. Don't think we are at the end right now. Nintendo Switch, they started with a little machine which is cheap and doesn't really have the strongest tech inside it. Steam Deck came out with something stronger, but still only strong enough to play games on medium graphic mostly. Now ROG Ally might come out with a console in the same price as the Steam Deck, but can actually play games maybe on even high graphic or maybe even extreme or ultra graphic. What is the next thing? Like, I honestly believe after this we're gonna get the same power as the gaming laptops we see nowadays. We're gonna have that in handheld gaming. It's only a question of time. And then suddenly, handheld gaming consoles, laptops, PCs are all gonna be there on the shelf together. And you're gonna see different brands like Asus, Dell, Dell and Alienware is pretty much the same. But yeah, Dell, Asus, ROG. You're gonna see like Microsoft maybe even coming out with a handheld gaming device. It might be like mostly only for streaming games. But I just think like all the big brands we have out there, even probably maybe Apple, like Samsung, I could see all of them coming with handheld devices. And suddenly, because the phone, the time of phones, like smartphones, is kind of dead, if you know what I mean. Like every phone we get every year, it just looks like the same phone as last year. It just has a bit faster CPU. It has a bit more battery time. It has a bit better camera. We are kind of there where our phones cannot really evolve anymore. But now we are in a stage where handheld gaming can really evolve, which I see it from here. Because Nintendo Switch, Steam Deck, Asus ROG Ally, it's only a beta, man. It's just a beta. It's just the start of all this. It was a nice beta. It was a fun one. But in 5 years, we're gonna look back at this episode and be like, yeah, look at that. I got my whatever Microsoft Surface gaming handheld 22 blah blah blah. And it just plays every game on extreme, and it's just like insane. That is just gonna be the future, I think. So in the future we're gonna have gaming handhelds, we're gonna have consoles. Maybe we're not even. I mean, see, the thing is, like, the Nintendo Switch is even also a console. You can plug it in and play it as a console. You can do the same with the Steam Deck. You can probably also do it the same with the. So I have a feeling if this is going this way all the time, like if it's going this way, we potentially could see an end of like the Xbox, for example. Because why should Xbox keep doing boxes without screens if they could maybe put the same power inside something like the Steam Deck on Nintendo Switch, and then have the entire Xbox in that little thing you can hold in your hands and go around your house and play with, but you could also plug it into an Xbox, like an Xbox docking station. It's only the matter of time before we have graphic cards in chip sizes, which is the same power as, like a 4090 from RTX NVIDIA. You're probably laughing now, but I'm just saying it. With the time of how technology is evolving, we are definitely going to see a future where we're going to have the same power as 4090 graphic cards in a chip which can be on your little finger. That's just how it's going to be. And yeah, we might still have like very big graphic cards which are still like 10 times stronger than that chip. But is our games going to use that? Probably not. That chip is probably enough for like making play all the games for the next 5 years on high settings. That's the thing. Like if you buy a 4090 today, even if you play like the biggest games, it's only gonna like use what 30% of the card, and then you have like 70% of the card just like be here. Like, should I just start crypto mining? You know what I mean? Like, it's just bored. It doesn't know what to do, and that's the thing. Like we're coming to a place now where even the biggest graphic cards just like we don't need it, but it's there and it's nice to have. Like I would love to have a 4090, but your PC doesn't need it. Like you could do fine with a 3080 or 3060 probably. It depends on like when you begin to go into 4K gaming and 8K gaming, yeah, then you start needing bigger cards for sure. But it is what it is. So I hope you enjoyed my half-hour rambling about handheld gaming. It's just I just, I don't think I have a friend who would like to listen to me about this for like a half hour. So that's why I'm doing it now on podcast. So you can basically hear me talking about handheld gaming for 30 minutes. So thanks for still being here. But yeah, so I think personally handheld gaming is going to be the future. I could definitely see, for example, imagine a Steam Deck which is 10 times stronger. You wouldn't need anything else. You don't need a PC, you don't need a laptop, you don't need a console, because you have your handheld gaming in your hand, and whenever you need it and as your PC, you put it in the dock, which is connected to two screens, maybe one screen, a mouse and keyboard. You play your game, you stream your games, you do whatever you need. If you want to play it as a console, you go down to your sofa, you put it in the dock, add your controller to it, you play your games. So people don't see it yet. But handheld gaming devices like the Steam Deck and the Nintendo Switch, I think it's the future. And I'm calling it now. I'm writing it down. Remember, Dvalin himself, he said, handheld gaming is the future. It is what it is. So, yeah. So, just going like into another topic is like, we had the first episode, which was about like the future of gaming. Like the games that is coming out soon, and then we talked about a little about Diablo, and the game that I'm really anticipated for is like Corpunk. I just kind of like want to talk a bit about me. I know it sounds selfish, But if you're going to continue this journey with me and listening to my podcast episodes, I think it's fair that you know who I am, who the host of the shows, the next 100 episodes you're going to listen to. Who is this person actually? Well, and the thing is, like, I am Dvalin, which is from Denmark. My real name is actually Stefan, and I live in Denmark. I'm a gaming dad, which have kids, wife, and I live on the countryside. If you're watching on YouTube right now, you can see this is my farm. And I'm going to try to set different places whenever I record these videos on YouTube. Of course, you won't be able to see this on Spotify. You can always check out my YouTube later. Just find one on Dvalin. But whenever I just found out I need to set places where I don't have any wind. And right now, where I'm sitting right now, I don't have any wind. I mean, if I just go around the corner, I actually have wind. But here, I don't have any wind. So, I can sit here without the microphone getting attacked by wind. So, but yeah, Dvalin, I just became 30 years old, like 5 days ago, on the 23rd April. I love MMORPG games. Like, I love MMOs, just generally MMOs, open world games. One of my favorite things about gaming is cross-save. I love that I can go down on my Xbox, go to my PlayStation 5, go to my Steam Deck, my Nintendo Switch, my PC, play the same game and have the same character. So games like Destiny that allows that, Fortnite. I mean, Fortnite was the first real cross-save game I had, which it blew my mind that I can play on literally any console and still have all my progress there. It's really cool. I just really love cross-save. And I know Diablo 4 is going to have full cross-save any consoles. The only benefit, the only downside of Diablo 4 is that you need to buy it on all the consoles. So if you want to play it on your Xbox, PlayStation, PC, you need to basically buy the game 3 times, which is quite a lot of money because that game is expensive, like a lot, very expensive. But yeah, I'm a gamer. I've been gaming since I remember, since I remember my time of my life. I was getting a Game Boy, and just by that day, I basically became a gamer, and I've been that since, like, always. Love gaming, love talking about gaming, which is the main reason for why I made this podcast, because I just want to talk about gaming, just gaming. Like, if I could say, what would my dream life look like? It would be streaming in the evenings, like streaming on YouTube and Twitch, basically streaming the games I want to play. Like MMOs, different MMOs and stuff like that. Sorry, just have to take a sip. I'm talking so much. My dream future would basically be being able to stream games in the evening and doing podcasts on the day. I used to do a lot of videos about guides and stuff like that, but I have to admit it's burning up. It's burning you up really fast doing all these videos about, oh my god, listen to this news. Oh my god, the developers of this game just say this. Oh my god, have you seen this new content here? Oh my god. And people just do more clickbaitable thumbnails. They do all these titles. Oh my god, they've big update, blah 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 blah. Oh my god, and I'm just like, I'm getting a bit tired of it. I just want to talk about games and have a good time, if you know what I mean. And yeah, which is why I hope this podcast can be a thing that I can just keep doing, having a good time talking about gaming. I even want to have guests on the show, and I'm trying to set up some kind of like a voicemail, because I want people like who's listening, like you who are listening right now. I want you to be able to leave me a voicemail, voice message, which I can then play on this podcast, and basically, answer the questions you would have. Like, if you were like, someone could maybe be like, hey, have you seen the news about this, blah, blah, blah. What is your opinion about that? And then I could sit here giving my opinion. So that's something definitely I'm going to do in the future. But yeah, my dream world would be that I could basically be doing streaming in the evenings when the kids sleep, and podcasting in the day. That would be awesome. That would actually be really awesome. So yeah, that's just but that's me, a gamer dad who likes to do content on YouTube and Twitch, Facebook, just basically gaming content. And now here I'm sitting here doing podcasts. It's my second podcast. I had another podcast called Gaming Landscape with a guy called Lumio. He's like a moderator in the Corpunk Discord community. And it was a nice podcast. We had a good time. It was fun talking to each other, but uh, from my standpoint, it just became hard to like, every time we had to record an episode, it needed to fit with his life, and my life is pretty busy with the kids and all that stuff. And he also had a very busy life with, just his life. And then I just think it died out. But now I have this podcast here where I can just basically record whenever I want. I can invite guests to whenever I want them. And I'm going to have this voice messages in the future to like have more to talk about. But yeah. So, short story, that's me. Nothing crazy about that. But, always every day chasing the dream of being a content creator, if you could say. Yeah. So again, this has been an episode of 35 minutes. I'm always shocked about how much I can talk about game. Like trust me, I could talk more. I could talk even more. But I'm gonna save stuff for when I record tomorrow or the next day after. I need something to talk about every day. So that's how we go. So, but yeah, don't worry. Not every episode is gonna be about me talking about the show and what the show is about. After this episode here, we are truly just gonna do content, like content, and more content. I mean, it's because it's second episode, so I feel like it's deserving to like give an explanation of what we're actually doing here and why I'm here and who I am. So yeah. But thanks for listening again, everyone. It was a pleasure making episode 2 of the daily podcast. God, I just made this podcast like out of nowhere, and I found the name and stuff like that. So I have to like remember the name for this podcast. But yeah, thanks for listening to the Daily Loot, your daily source to gaming news. Peace out, and have a great day, evening, wherever you are in the world and what time zone you are currently in. Thanks for watching or listening on the podcast. Peace out.